Hi everybody, I'm very excited to be here and to talk to you about a project that we did redesigning Sony Ericsson's product phone catalog. I have 12 years experience in interaction design, and currently I'm an information architect at Media Catalyst. Media Catalyst is a full-service web agency based in Amsterdam. We have offices also in the US and in Malta with about 110 people in total. And we've been working very closely with Sony Ericsson since their foundation in 2001. Sony Ericsson makes mobile phones. It's a joint venture between Sony from Japan and Ericsson from Sweden. And I know that they're not a very big brand in the US, but they're in the top 5 worldwide, along with companies like Nokia and Motorola. And last year they sold 100 million phones. And they have a website. SonyEricsson.com is their main website for consumers. And technically it's one website that exists in 75 local versions using 38 different languages. As you can imagine, product information is a really important part of the website. Even though, I have to say, Sony Ericsson doesn't sell directly to consumers. Most people get a phone as part of their subscription with a telecom operator, and then they pay through it through their monthly payments. So that's the reason why we can't really show price information on the website, even though we know it's definitely something that users would really like to see. 2 years ago, this was the phone catalog on the website. And, well, to be honest, the catalog is a rather too big a word for it. It was really a list of all the available phones. And as even Jared Spool pointed out in an article at the time, it was not really giving users information that they needed to make a choice between these phones. And that was one thing. And on the other thing, well, when this was created, a local market would have something between 10 and 20 phones. And Sony Ericsson knew that they were going to drastically expand their product range in 2007. So that was also really a trigger to do something about this. For example, in the UK, there will now be 70 different models available. So you can imagine what an endless list this would become. So as we set about redesigning the phone catalog, we knew 2 things that we wanted to do. We want to give people the option to filter the phones, to select a subset that met their requirements. And also we want to give them a preview so that they could look more closely at a phone, get some more information before actually going to the detail pages, so as to avoid going back and forth, pogo sticking. And the project was started, and that was basically run like this. We started with 3 throwaway prototypes that were then tested. So that was to explore some initial ideas that we had. And after that, development was started on the actual thing. And this project was done with Agile. Now, I've heard already today so many mentions of Agile, I don't think I have to explain what it is. But well, the good thing of Agile is that at the end of each sprint, you have something that works. And that was very useful because we had the opportunity to run 2 more tests along the way. And what I'm going to show you is the various stages that our design went through and what results we got in the usability tests. So this is the first of the 3 initial prototypes. And what you see is a list of phones. And when you mouse over a phone, you'll get some more information about that phone. On the left, there is a selection panel. And this one has 3 steps. The first step, you're asked to select a category. Then the second step is you can choose 1 or more features. And the third step, yeah, you select a style. Style is what we call the form factor of the phone. So it can be a clamshell phone or swivel or slider phone or a regular classic or stick phone. So this was these first prototypes. They were tested in a small-scale usability test in Sweden with 7 testers. And what was very clear about this one was that people didn't notice the selection panel. And something that we saw in all of the tests that we ran was that people were very much attracted by the images of the phones. I would say that you cannot overestimate the attraction, the pull that product images have. So they looked at those and not at the thing on the side. And then if they did look at it, they didn't notice there was a next link. So they were clicking something and wondering why nothing was happening in the list of phones. And another problem that occurred was that you could have a combination of selections that led to 0 results. So you'd end up with an empty list. In a way, that's not entirely a usability problem, because it is kind of informative that you have these and these requirements, and Sony Ericsson doesn't actually have any phones that meet those. However, the marketing people didn't like this very much. Okay, so the second prototype also has various categories of selections you can make. So you're invited to click on one. Keep looking there and clicking here. This is not working. You can open it and you get a number of checkboxes to select, or you can open another one. So when this was tested in the same test, of course, well, people opened and they made some selections, and they opened another one and made some selections, and well, they kind of forgot what they selected in the first one. So, and then they also weren't sure whether the ones that had collapsed again, whether these were still taken into account, which they were. But people, of course, they couldn't know that. So that was, I think, confusing to them. One thing they did like was the large image of the phone that was here, this preview thing. Here's the third one, and this has one long panel with all the options. This got noticed a lot better than the first one, probably because of the color swatches and the images of the styles that sort of competed a little bit with the phone images. And it did have an instant update of the list, whatever you clicked, which was also good. But then there was something new is introduced here, and that's the green sliders. I'm not sure if you can see those. They're just below the images of the styles. And the green sliders, well, what they're trying to convey is that, well, to many people, the size of the phone is important. Some people want a small one that fits into their pocket. Some people want a large one that has large buttons to click on. But that doesn't mean you have an exact size in mind. You just want one of the larger ones or one of the smaller ones. So that's what the green sliders are trying to do. So you're indicating a range of sizes there, or something else. You maybe know a range of something else. Unfortunately, users did not get this at all. They were very much confused by this, you could say, expansion of the traditional idea of a slider. They didn't understand how the green was moving, and particularly when it was set to the middle, they were wondering, does it mean that the size is not taken into account, or is it always going to be an average size, or what does this mean? So, all in all, these 3 initial prototypes, they, well, had quite a lot of problems, but at least we got away with a couple of very clear ideas. The main one I'd say is visibility. If people are not going to see it, then there's really not much point to the whole exercise. And yeah, the sliders were out as well. And then there was this. What's this? Sony Ericsson had introduced a categorization of their phones to be used internally and also with retailers. And this is what it means. So music phones. Aha, yes. So very snappy. And they liked it so much that they wanted to use it with consumers as well. Now, we weren't too thrilled about this idea, because by now, based on the earlier tests, we were thinking more of something simple with features and with styles. And one of the problems is that many phones have the ability to play music, but not all of those are considered music phones. Music phones or the Walkman phones are the ones that have some extra functionality. And the same thing with camera and in-focus phones. So how are users supposed to understand this, apart from the fact that the names aren't initially understandable, and they're also completely non-translatable. But there they were. We had to do something with the categories. And in our next attempt, I would say you can you can really see us struggling with the categories. They are now up there at the top as tabs. So there's one tab with all phones, and then there's one tab for each of the categories. So the idea is that you start by selecting one of the tabs, and then below you have the features to click and the styles that you can select. And then the list below is updated immediately based on your selection. Well, this was again tested in Sweden with 8 people. And the result here was loud and clear. People did not see the categories. You kind of could have seen that coming, considering that we put them at the top, very far away from the product images, which we know people are going to look at first. And the other thing is the graphical design that was chosen made the tabs look like banners, which we all know is a surefire way to make sure that people are going to ignore something. So we had to really rethink this. And to be honest, I also had to kind of change my attitude a bit and embrace these categories a bit more and think about what they really mean. Because, well, if you're looking for a phone and sort of the one thing you know about it is that you want one of those that can play music and maybe other features, but you know that's the big thing, well, then it is actually a good idea to select music phones, because then you'll see those phones that have some extra features for music, and they have dedicated controls to access the music stuff. So this is what it turned into. And you now see the categories have come down, and they're now on a par with the features and the styles. So there's categories, features, and styles to choose from, all same level, and it's really up to you, user, to use one or the other and to start using this filter mechanism. I said features in the middle. Actually, they're now called benefits. It's a slight difference. Features, it has a camera. Benefit is I can take pictures with it, slightly more user-oriented. So how does this work now? You can click anything in the filter panel, and the list below is immediately updated. And the control panel itself is also updated. So as any control that would lead to 0 results is now grayed out. So that's how we keep people from getting 0 results. If you click on one of the phones, you get a preview with a large image. As we know, people like the larger image. You can click on another one and see another image. And you can click comparing to other phones. And if you do that, something slides out. This slides out. I like to think of it as a drawer that goes open and closes again. It has 3 slots, and you can drag and drop phones in here. You can close it again, browse some more, put another phone in it. And when you're happy with the lineup, you can click Compare Now. And then you get this. And this is a pretty straightforward comparison of 3 phones on their, let's say, their specifications. And then below there's a long list of features that they may or may not have. So this was the version that was then subjected to usability testing in 5 countries, in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, in the US, Mexico, India, and China. And a number of issues came up across the board, but there are a few local ones that I would like that are nice to mention. First of all, well, again, everybody looked at the phone images first. The US was the only country where people would then look at the styles and use the styles. The rest of the world didn't seem to care much about the styles, but the Americans did. And I've always heard that the US stands out in their preference from other countries in their preference for clamshell phones. So I was thinking, okay, maybe you guys are all clicking the clamshell phones to see those. At the end of the test, we asked everybody, what did they think about the color? And everybody said, oh, green is a very nice, soft color. Except for the people in India, where 7 out of 8 people said, green is such a dull color, why not use blue? I have no idea why. Then we also asked them about the background image. I'm not sure if you noticed there's a background image behind the panel. We asked people about that as well. And they said, oh, I hadn't noticed, but it's nice, you should keep it. okay, well, I guess we kept it for a while, and then we decided we'd had to take it out to save on the download time of the thing. We also showed people the previous version of the phone catalog, and well, which version they liked. And well, surprisingly, in China, 50% of people said they actually preferred the old one. This is, of course, not exactly what you want to hear at this point. And they said they liked to see all the phones at the same time, and they liked the larger images. The smaller images were exact same size as the new catalog, but apparently they looked bigger. They even liked that list all the way on the left, a list of 30 phones in random order. I don't know why anybody would like that. Well, maybe we shouldn't have been so surprised, considering that the Chinese like their websites like this. And this is a popular news site in China. And also from other experience, we know that the Chinese really like very dense, very packed sites, layouts, lots of links, lots of things to click on. That works for them. But generally, I'd say that not just in China, but also in India and Mexico, people didn't seem to use the filter very much in the usability test. And yeah, they just clicked on the phones, and they looked at the previews, and that's the way how they evaluated the phones. So, well, that was kind of a humbling result, considering that we thought so much about this filter, and then, well, lots of people didn't really want to use it very much. And that's a bit the problem when you're designing for all these different countries. You kind of have to find some middle ground, and you cannot cater to all the individual tastes. There were 3 things that came out across the board. One of them is that old problem about seeing the feedback. Yes, we did update the list immediately whenever you would click something, but let's say you start with 70 phones and you say, I want to see phones with a camera, and then it's cut down to 50. Chances are, in those phones that you see, there might not be a change, or there's a very small change that you don't notice. So we introduced an artificial progress bar, just for this purpose, to say, hey, we're changing things. And it worked. We had this problem in the first test in Amsterdam. We introduced it, and then it was okay afterwards. I'm not particularly proud of this. I find it very irritating. I did insist that we had to have a do not show me again checkbox. The thing is, it's there so briefly that it's really hard to check the box. So it's not very, very useful. The other thing is, I was very happy that I caught this in time. We had been operating from the idea that people would be interested in buying either a clamshell phone or a slider phone, for example. So they want to see selection of those 2 styles together. And that's why it's in here, it's checkboxes, so you can select one or more. And that also makes it rather complicated because you can never uncheck the last one because you would have 0 results. And stakeholders were always asking me, why don't they work in the same way as the benefits? Well, the benefits, you say, I want this and that and that. And the styles is show me this or this or this style. So anyway, at this point, I realized, 1, nobody cares about the styles. 2, it's only the Americans. They want clamshell phones. So really, it's really enough to be able to see one style at a time. So it was changed into a radio box, where you can have one style or all styles. Much simpler. Then the last thing, compare phones. You remember that the 3 slots and the dragging and dropping? People loved this. They knew how to use it instantly. They did it, and they liked the results next to each other. The thing is, they said all these nice things only after it had been pointed out to them, because they didn't notice the functionality was there. And, well, okay, now I put this red box around it, but even without it, we were looking at how can people not see this? And we changed the color, we changed the font, we underlined it. People were still not seeing it, and we kind of didn't know what to do. We were planning to make an update shortly after the go live. But then the thing was rolled out. And the first statistics came in. It was first rolled out in China. And I remember looking at statistics and saying, what? Thousands of people in China have already clicked compare phones. People are seeing this. People are using it. And in fact, based on the statistics that we now have from a whole year, almost 1 in 5 people uses the compare functionality. So apparently some people are seeing it. And then this is what went live. And what is still live today. The only change is the background color. I'm not sure what the people in India would think of that. And as I said, we have been able to collect a lot of statistics since then. About a year worth of statistics. About 9 million visitors a month visit the product area of the site. It has been a very interesting project to be a part of. And it's got me thinking particularly about the value of user testing in such projects. Obviously, it's been very valuable for us to refine, to improve the interaction design. But at the same time, there are some considerable differences to what people did in the test and what they are doing in reality based on it, as far as we can see in the statistics. So I think it's important to realize that usability testing is really about finding out if something is usable. Can people use it? Like the green sliders, they couldn't use that. Dragging and dropping phones, yes, they could use that. But if and how they will use it, that remains to be seen. And I think this is because there's millions of users out there. When you're talking about websites, so many users out there, and they have thousands of different motivations and needs. And for usability tests, you can only take a handful of those, and then tell your testers to imagine that you want to buy a phone. And I watched the tests that were done in Amsterdam, and we asked people, as one of the first questions, find a phone that you'd like. And a number of people would just go click, click, scroll, click, click, that one. I don't think that's what you do when you're really thinking of buying a product that's going to cost you a couple of $100s. You would really have more of a motivation to find things. So I think that's what you see, that in reality people are clicking more, using the functionality more because they are really trying to find the best product and investing some time in that. So as much as I like usability testing, it's not a cure-all. And we need things like web statistics to find out how people are using things. I'd love to do A/B testing. And even, then there's the question, what would people like? Well, you're not going to easily find out because it's not on your website. They're not going to click it. So you need things like surveys, even field research to find out what people would like to do. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.